what's up? I'm Unknown Shadow. This is Eleanor. This is Colorado, more so the highway. And today we're going to talk about heat. How much heat the stock Scrambler 1200XE's header gives off right at your knee. Or shin, depending on how long your legs are. People have kind of talked about a lot of different things about how hot that the header can get. The problem is that right off the header comes the catalytic converter, and it's literally right behind that heat shield right next to your knee. While it's doing its thing, you know, its temperature raises up quite a bit. I can already feel a little bit of that heat right on my right on the back of my calf. What I did was I took a temp of just kind of the bike sitting idle in the garage, and then just going out for a quick ride, maybe about a half hour on the freeway, up and back. When I get back to the garage, I'll take another reading as soon as I get into the garage and just see how much of a temperature difference it is on that header. And then what I'm going to do is actually replace it. I have the Freespirits H-Pipe decat header that I'm more than ready to put onto this bike. It should do a couple of things. It should kind of open up that front part of the header a little bit more, so might see a little bit more power. But in general, it should also just get rid of that accumulating heat right next to your knee. I'm still going to be running the stock silencer on the back of the Scrambler. At some point, I may replace that. I haven't quite figured out what I want to go to yet. So for now, for this, it's just going to be that header replacement, and more specifically the decat. So yeah, for now, just going to ride a little bit and then get back and take a temperature. As a little bit of a side rant while I'm here. So I like having service manuals at my fingertips so that I can, like, you know, check torque values, just make sure I'm not missing something. And from what I can tell, newer Triumphs, I'm not sure what year this started, they don't really sell service manuals anymore. Instead, you can go to the Triton website, and you can basically rent time on there to get access to the manuals, which is completely insane. I mean, I get wanting to save money in the environment, I guess, on printing things, on not printing things, but come on. I did find that there's a Haynes manual as well that you can actually buy the book for. That one you can also kind of get a year's online access as well, which I did instead just because they grouped a whole lot of bikes together in the Haynes manual for this specific bike, and I wanted to make sure. But actually, looking at the contents now that I have access to it, it looks pretty decent. So I may go ahead and grab that in actual printed form. Let's just get back to the garage and grab that temperature. And through the magic of video, what seems like seconds has actually been like 2 days. Yesterday I took a nice break and went fishing, so yeah. The install went really easy. I wasn't really expecting too much from it. It's definitely an easy install. I have taken off the silencer and the headers prior to this when I was installing the crash bars over the engine. I mean, the install's pretty easy. You take off the heat shields. There's quite a bit of them, but take those off. Before I actually pinched some of the clamps, the screw things, before I had pinched those and kind of twisted them, so I'd actually pre-ordered some just so the next time I took the heat shields off I could replace those. Yeah, once I got those off, then it was taking the 2 bolts off the end that hold the silencer to the bike, loosening up the clamps, getting the silencers off the headers and off the bike, and then moving up to the actual header itself, loosening up that clamp that holds the 2 header, the left and the right side of the header together, and then loosening up to the header bolts, and then just taking that all off. Taking everything off was definitely easy. It mentioned quite a bit that you can reuse some of the just kind of depends on what the status they are. I've reused the fitting inside the header, and the manual actually just said to put a little bit of grease on it before you reseat everything. So put a little bit of grease on that before I put the new header on. While I had both headers on the ground, it was nice to kind of see the difference between the two sizes and the simplicity of the new header without the whole cat. I think in the manual they call it the collector box. So without all of that on the bike, definitely looks a lot simpler. I measured the difference in weight between them, and it was actually pretty crazy. Reinstallation, of course, was just as easy. The only real gotchas that I had were kind of two parts. It is a new header, so the header and the bike weren't made in the same factory. So, you know, getting the header and the right side header and the left side header to kind of link up while also getting the header into the engine, that of course took a little bit. And then connecting the silencer, because it's all one piece, connecting the silencer back on was also a little bit more difficult. But you know, taking your time and kind of pushing everything together, you got to do everything you can not to smush up the the things in between. God damn it, what are those called? I don't know. So once everything's kind of on there, when you put the header on, you put the bolts to the engine, but you kind of just keep them loose, and you keep everything a little bit loose because, you know, you got to make sure you have enough room to get all of the silencer and everything else to realign. So that took a little bit, but it really wasn't difficult at all. But now I have everything back on the bike, so I just wanted to make sure to get on the same road, give it the same. It's a little bit cooler today, but not too bad. Let the bike warm up, get it back into the garage, take a temperature reading, and then just see what the difference is between them. I know this isn't a really long ride. I'm not really designing it to be a really long ride, but even on this short amount of a ride, I mean, you could start feeling the heat on your leg right next to that header. And right now, I'm really not noticing the same amount of heat, which is exactly what I was hoping for. Somebody on my Instagram had actually asked about the sound that comes off of it now that you've decatted it. Again, I have the stock silencers on, so I wasn't expecting too much of a change in sound. It does seem to be like a little throatier, and that's about it. I don't notice the sound getting any really louder. So yeah, as far as that goes, it seems to be pretty much the same. One thing that's nice about the newer bikes is that replacing something like the headers and making those changes, there's no ECU reflash. It has enough smarts in there, and there's actually two O2 sensors that are one on each header, but there's enough kind of going on that the engine will kind of rebalance itself and figure that stuff out. You have to give it a little bit of time, but it just kind of takes care of that on its own. So unlike some other bikes like the Monkey, there isn't much that I have to do. I just replace the part and kind of let the bike do its thing. It's quite nice. But yeah, on the last ride, even right about now, I mean, I was already feeling a fair amount of heat on my calf. I am wearing kind of my more summery gear, so the pants are a little bit more mesh and a little bit more free flowing, and I wore that on purpose just so that I could feel that heat change. And right now, I'm definitely not feeling that. So it'll be interesting to see what the actual temperature is. I'll just kind of flash that up here because when I'm editing, I'm already done with the ride. But as far as on the bike feeling, it's already quite a bit different, and I'm pretty happy with that change. But that's really all I have for this video. I wanted to put in that new header, get rid of that cat, finally take care of some of the heat that's been going on with this bike, especially as we're getting more and more into summer. You know, I don't really have a lot of stop and go traffic thanks to the pandemic, so It's a lot less noticeable when you're moving, because no matter what, the air is going to be pushing things away, but you can definitely feel that difference. But if you're in the middle of stop and go traffic and you're just kind of sitting there waiting, holding on, like, you're definitely going to feel that heat radiating off of that cat, and it's really nice not having that there. I know that I'm ignoring a lot of policies that put those onto the bike, and that's going to be a choice that you have to make. But for now, that's all I have. Hopefully you found something interesting. I know that there's a lot of different header options. There's even more coming out. Asking around, there isn't, it's kind of personal preference on the looks, on the welding, on those things. Performance-wise, there hasn't been a lot of major noticeable differences. So you just kind of have to make that choice. This one's the Freespirits. I happen to like how it looks, but kind of figure that out. But for now, hopefully you enjoyed something about this video. If you did, like, subscribe, comment, do those things if you like to do those things. But for now, hopefully you're having a good day. Thanks for watching. Bye.
It's the Amazon parade.